have any zipper, because if you look at the back, there's an open space in between that has a strap. So I decided I'm not going to be adding any zipper allowance, so I cut the same width for my front and the back. So this is like two fabrics that are folded into two. The first thing I did is to mark the width. So the width I have here is my bust measurement divided by 4, which is 10.5, because my bust is 42. I added extra 1.5 to it, guys, because I'm making this for the first time, so I need to have some ease in between, so that depending on how it fits, I can change it around. So that's what I did. Instead of my normal 1-inch seam allowance I always use, I did 1.5 this time around. So that's 1.5 that I have here, hence why this is 12 inches in total. So now after that, you're going to join your basic bodice. My shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 8 inches, came down here for 1 inch of shoulder slope, then marked my armhole, which is divided by 2, which is 9 inches, marked it straight across, drew in my armhole, my neckline, and then came down here and marked my waist measurement, which is 34 divided by 4, which is 8.5, added 2 inches to it, so that I can be able to add in this dart. My dart is 1 inch before my chest line. My chest, my bust is at 11, and then 1 inch before that is 12. So you see, that's why my dart came up to this point. This dart will be transferred on the 4 layers of these clothes. Okay, so now with that said, the length I have here, guys, if you look at the picture, you'll find that there is space in by the side. This space, it depends on you how you want yours to be. So you can do 2 inches below your under bust, which might already be your waist. So what I did here is just to do my shoulder to waist that I normally use to cut my bodice. I subtracted like 1 inch from it. So normally my shoulder to waist would have been like 17 inches now, and then I would have added 1 inch to cut this body. So when I'm done, I will still have this perfectly on my waist. But instead of that, I just use my shoulder to waist on the dot, so that I will take away 1 inch from it, and this will hang up by, I will take away 1 inch of sewing, right? Because normally when you're marking this, you add 1 inch of seam allowance so that you can use it to join the bottom and the top to whatever your bodice is, right? But for me this time around, because I want to remove 1 inch from that, I just cut out my main, this here is just 17 inches, which is my shoulder to waist, right, on the dot. But I'm going to take away 1 inch from it when I go to sew this end close and this end close. So I'll be left with 16 inches. So basically whatever your shoulder to waist is, remove 1 inch from it, and then you'll be left with, for me, I'm left with 16. And then if you add 1 inch again, so that will be your seam allowance, you'll be left with 17, if that makes sense, guys. So that's basically what I'm working with. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the 1 inch of neckline for the back, which is not going to be this is just a basic bodice that I drew here. And then my waist measurement, cut that off to the waist, to the bust. And then I'm also going to go ahead and cut out the armhole. So guys, now that I've done this, I've cut out the side, the armhole, the shoulder. The next thing I'm going to do, if you look at this, you will find that the neckline is a little bit wide. So instead of doing 3 inches of neckline, I think I'm going to extend it a little bit and do 4 inches. So I'm going to go into this armhole by this shoulder slope by 1 more inch. And then I'm going to come up here at the edge by at least 2 inches in the meantime. And then it's better to cut less than to cut more, and then you find that this is way too much. So you can even do 2.5. So let me do 2.5 for now. And then I'm going to connect this part here. Guys, I'm more on the bigger chest side, so I don't want my cleavage to show too much. So that's where I'm worried here. So that's why I brought mine up a little bit more. But if you're more on the small chest and you don't mind the opening by the chest, then you can just go ahead and stick to about 2 inches or 2.5 here. So after that, so I just did about 3.5 in the meantime. Guys, I can always go back and reduce it. But if I cut this now and it's too open, I can't go back and add more. So what I'm going to do also is to add mark half an inch from this edge here, because you're not going to cut this directly. So I'm going to mark half an inch on this edge here, and then on this half an inch I'm going to connect it to this extension of 4 inches neckline. Because guys, remember, wherever this dart is already, remember all this part now, your bust is already out. But that's the style. So because remember, your dart stops 1 inch before your bust, so your bust is somewhere here at this point. So you know that this opening here is already like It depends on you how you want yours to look. So I've connected mine half an inch inwards and then 1 inch away so that I can extend the neckline to be 4 inches. Connected it to that point. So I'm going to cut it out. And then if you look at the back, you also see that the back has a lower curve. So what I did here is to also mark that extension of 1 inch for the shoulder neckline, which is 4 inches width. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark down from the shoulder. I'm going to mark down, let's say about 9 inches. It depends on you what you want yours to look like. So I'm going to do 8 inches instead of 9. So at that point, I'm going to connect this here. You're going to need a lining to turn this over. So this is what it looks like now. So for me, I'm going to split the back open. I'm going to split the back open, and then I'm also going to go ahead and cut off this part here. Guys, you know, if you want, you can make this into a jumper, a romper instead of a full jumpsuit. It depends on you what you want. So let me cut mine open at this point so you guys can see it. And remember the miniature version that we have here, which is exactly this one, because I had to make it here. So you see what it looks like. So when I open this now, you see what it looks like here. So once I cut my jumpsuit is going to come up and wrap around this whole part here. So this is exactly what it looks like here. And you see my dart is going to come in somewhere here and somewhere here. So this is the back panel here. The back is going to look something like this, but there's going to be a strap coming in at the back. Guys, what I have here now is to draft the pants. So what we have here is 6 inches distance from this point to this point. So I marked 6 inches here, 6 inches here. So I know you'll be wondering how I got the 6 inches. So like I said, I'm going to be drafting this on a lining, right? So I need half an inch at the top of this to join this and half an inch to join the bottom. If not, what I have here is 4 inches, but since I'm going to be turning it over on a lining, once I take away, because this 4 inches is just basically that length of this bottom part here, which is that length I was telling you. If you're more on a smaller bust side, or you don't mind a lot of cleavage out, then you can always do like 2 inches or 3 inches, so that when you take away 1 inch of seam allowance, whatever you decide to use as this length here, just know that you will still take away 1 inch from it, because half an inch of the bottom is going into the lining, half an inch of the other part is going into the lining. So that is 1 inch that is gone. So whatever you decide to use, so I decided to use 3 inches. I know that I need to add 1 inch to it, so that's 4 inches because of the excess the lining that I'm going to use to turn it over, which is my seam allowance. So that is where I have the 3 inches left, because this part here is 6 inches, because I need, remember what we did on the pattern here. This part is going to, part of your pants is going to wrap around. Let me show you on the miniature one. So this part is going to wrap around your top. This is the pattern I drafted for the pants before. So remember, it's going to wrap around this top and turn over this way. So that is why I have this 6 inches here, because it's going to wrap around on this part of this top like this. This top is going to be inside of it and it's going to wrap around. So that's basically why I have 6 inches here. So if you look at the pants here, you will see what her own looks like. It wraps around on top here. So that's basically why. So guys, now that I've marked mine, so on for a smaller person, it might be 2 inches, 4 inches that you have here. That's 2 inches for the front wrapping and 2 inches for the back side. So guys, after that, now the next thing we have to measure is from wherever your top stops, which is somewhere here now on your body. That's where you're going to wrap it around to your back. So it depends on you what you're going to use. So the first thing I marked here now in the meantime is just my waist to my hip, which is 10 inches. So this is my hip line now. Normally when you go to mark your pants, it might start from your waist exactly, and then you subtract 2 inches from it when you go to measure the crotch, because of the 2 inches for the band. When you're making a palazzo pant, you normally, whatever you mark for the crotch, and then like this is how I measured my waist to my hip, right? From here to somewhere here, which is 10 inches on me. That's how I got the 10 inches. But to measure the crotch, most times you sit down on a hard surface and then you measure from your waist to the chair exactly on a hard surface, or you can just wrap around the tape like this way, and then bring it to the back, and then you measure whatever you have here from the front to the back, whatever you have. So for me, I have about 28 for mine, which is 14. If I was making a palazzo pants, I would have used 12 inches, and then the other two would be my band. But you know, this one is more than high-waisted. This pant goes up a little more than high-waisted. That's why what we have here is not really, it's more than high-waisted, so it can't be the same crotch measurement. So I know when you measure something like this, it might sound like it's too much inches, but remember, this part is almost going up to your bust, so that's why. So for me, I'm going to be using about 14 inches here. Guys, the thing is that you would rather have this to be big, and then you chip off from the top part, this 6 inches, you reduce it and then shape it back again, than have it too tight. When you sit down, it's digging into your crotch. That's the worst case. So now I'm going to just mark whatever I got from wrapping around my crotch, which is 28. I divided it by 2, and then I have 14, right? And then I'm going to mark a straight line across on this measurement here now, just like that. And then the next thing you're going to do is just to measure your waist, your hip measurement divided by 4. Guys, I'm not going to be doing any I'm not going to be adding any seam allowance here. When we get to the fabric, we'll add seam allowance. I'm making this because someone sent it to me on Instagram. Guys, I'm making this for the first time also, so any changes I make when I try it out, I'm going to let you guys know. But I'm making it also for the first time, so just bear with me as we go. So the next thing you're going to do, just not to confuse you guys, I'm going to put the seam allowances on the fabric itself, right? The only confusion that might come in here is on the pants. The top, we already cut, that is done, but the pants is where we might get a little bit tedious. So the next thing you're going to do now is to mark your hip measurement divided by 4. So my hip is 48, and then I'm going to divide it by 4 is going to be 12. I'm going to mark that here. I'm also going to bring it up to my waist measurement line here, and then I'm also going to bring it down to this crotch line here, and then I'm going to rule a straight line across all the way up this way, right? Guys, if you don't want this to be too tight, you can always add ease. Like I said, it's not seam allowance we're talking about here. Ease is like the free part of the pants. Maybe if my hip is 48 and I divide it by 4, I can always go ahead and add 8, but I can always use 49 as my hip, right? So that when I divide it, that 1 inch is going to be just the free part of my pants. Like, instead of using my exact measurement, let's say your hip is 40, you decide to use 41. That's the ease I'm talking about. Is different from your seam allowance, right? So after that, now you're going to measure your thigh, the uppermost part of your thigh, right? Just beneath your butt. You're going to measure that part. So for me, I have about 15 inches. I have 30 there. Divided by 2 is going to be 15. So you're going to place that 15 inches measurement on this line. So that's why my extension here is 3 inches, right? So I've marked that. The next thing I'm going to do is to give it a curve for my, maybe come up here by like 1 inch. And then I'm going to connect, blend it into this line and blend it out of this line also, just like this. If you want, you can just use your hand to do yours, but I'm just going to do mine this way. Sorry, what am I doing? Okay, guys, you get the point. Come up here 1 inch and then blend this thing. So guys, the next thing you're going to do now is to go ahead, and this line is the mistake here, but the inner one is the correct one. So guys, the next thing we're going to do is to mark your waist measurement divided by 4. Like I said before, my waist is 34, divided by 4 is 8.5, sorry. And then I'm going to add 2 inches to that. 2 inches to that, which is 1 inch of my darting and 1 inch of seam allowance. And then I'm going to connect it to my hip measurements here, just like that. So that's basically what my pants will look like. At this point, you can take whatever measurement you have here on this your crotch line, and then you can bring it down here exactly like I had 15 here. I can also bring it down here and cut it straight down like this and connect it. Or if you want, you can reduce yours. It depends on you what you want, but I'm trying to make a palazzo pants. Guys, this is basically it. You can cut this straight down and it will be a palazzo pant. If you want, you can turn yours into a romper. I'm still trying to see how much fabric I'll have left, if I'm going to make mine a romper or if I'm going to make it a full jumpsuit. But either way, it's already the same thing. It's just that you have to add more. So now what I'm going to do is just to go ahead now and cut from this part here all the way. So guys, cut from here all the way up, cut from here all the way up, and then here. So but before then, we are going to rule this line up again to complete this line this way, because remember, this is the center part, this is the center of our pants where the curve is going to start. So after that, the next thing you're going to do, it depends on how you want the width of your band to be. So let's say I decide to do at least 1 inch for now, because remember you're still going to sew in some side of seam allowance here. So let's say you want to have 1 inch here, and then you're going to blend it into your into the waist of this pant. So you're going to give it a curve from here now to blend into the waist. So let me try to use a curve ruler first, and then I'll see how to change it around. So guys, this is what I'm working with at this point. If you want a more deeper curve, you can do that. So guys, this line that I've marked here now, all I have to do is to use my scissors and cut it out. I don't know if you guys can already see that this is coming together, right? This part here is going to be that curve, but remember that this part, guys, what you're going to do here, forget this part that I cut out. I just remember that this here, we are supposed to mark 3 inches down, right? Because this is supposed to be on a fold. This is the fold that will wrap around the top of our pants. 3 inches at the back of the fold, 3 inches in front. So remember, what I did here is I marked 1 inch distance away from here, 1 inch distance away from here, and then I'm going to now blend it. You can come down to the waist of this pants, or you can just stick to this straight line. It depends on you what you want. You can still stick to this waist line here, or you can just come down here into this line by like 1 inch, and then you're going to go ahead and then blend it into this part. Just blend it in, because the first one I started from this top part here, but remember, you're going to be folding this into the waist of the pants, meaning when you fold it in, this width cannot fit in into the fold. So you need to make a straight line down. You need to make something that is tiny before it spreads out, if that makes sense. So you will need something that is narrow before we go into the wider part. So I just remember that now. So now you have to mark 1 inch distance at least, bring it down to the first 3 inches, because if you check this now, like we said before, we have that 6 inches to fold. This 6 inches is not constant, because for a smaller person it might be small, it might be shorter than 3 inches, it can be 4 inches. So this is the part that folds, right? Half of it is the 3 inches that will fold at the back this way, and then the other 3 is the one in front. So that's why I decided to bring this line down a little bit more before I blend it down into the waist of my pants, into the curve this way, right? So that's basically what we have now. So at this point, I can go ahead and cut this out this way, and then this is what you will have here. So this is the waist of the pants, and then you're also going to cut off this excess from the hip, right? Remember, we did our hip measurement, our waist measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches of that thing. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to put my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. Mark it here, come down here, mark it again, and then connect it all the way. It's going to stop 2 inches before my hip line. My hip line is here. 2 inches before that should be somewhere here at 8 inches or so, because my waist to hip is at 10. 2 inches before that is at 8. So I'm going to dart it this way, and then I'm also going to mark another ½ an inch on this side. So basically this is going to be our dart, and this dart I'm going to make sure to extend it into this line, right? I'm going to make sure to extend it into this line here. Guys, don't worry, this is going to come together. You're going to see. So this here, you're going to extend this dart into this line here, and then you're going to go ahead and cut it. So see how I'm going to cut mine now, guys. I've decided I'm going to make mine a short pant, because I think if you decide to make this full outfit, you should be ready to use about 5 or 6 years, depending on how much you cut your fabric. So I think I'm going to make mine a short instead. So let me see the length I want my short to be. So starting from the waist, I think I'm going to make my short about, okay, let's do 20 inches, including all my seam allowances. So let's do 20 here, and then I'm going to cut it out. So this is going to be the length of my pants here. So let's cut at this point now. Guys, don't worry, we are still going to cut even the back panel, and then you guys will see what everything looks like. So after here, you go into the crotch, cut from here, and then cut all the way to the top. Stick to the line so you don't make a mistake, right? So you see, this is our front panel. Imagine when you have the second one here with exactly the same dart and everything. This one here is going to go into this part here, like this, and fold. You see, we're still going to trace this on our bodice, and then you're going to have your opening here, just like that. Remember, I don't want mine to have a lot of opening. It depends on the opening you want to have on yours, but mine will not have, just small skin, because I don't want to have a lot of skin and then there will be fold there. So fold as in belly fold, like muffin top here. So I decided to just do 1 inch abeg. If you have abs, you can do more than that, but I don't have abs, so let me stick to what I know. So guys, the next thing we are going to do now is to draft our back. So before we draft the back, you know what we are going to do? We are going to start from this waistline and fold this away. This way, let's fold this in like this. This back is going to be the easiest thing in this whole tutorial. Easy. So once we fold it, we are going to just place it this way. Place it on your pattern paper, the side that it will fit best, like this. You see, all we have to do now is just to add all our seam allowances. So what I'm going to do is just to add 2 inches everywhere. This side will remain the same, but all my seam, I'm going to add 2 inches. Guys, I decided, since it's going to have elastic at the back, this is not going to have a zip. So my seam allowance, I'm going to just put it at the back, if that makes any sense. So my seam allowance is going to come in, even if it's a jumpsuit, like a long one you're making. Guys, just add your seam allowance at the back of the pant instead of the fabric. So how you're going to do that now is just to do 2 inches here, 2 inches here, 2 inches all the way, 2 inches like this. Just keep adding 2 inches from the distance of the edge of your clothes, like that. Even coming to the crotch, do another 2 inches, or you can do 2.5 if you're more on the bigger side, or so that when you're sitting down, guys, there's nothing worse than a romper that is tight when you sit down. So you can extend the crotch like that, and then do the 2 inches again, just like that. Do another 2 inches here, and then extend your line again this way. Hopefully this is like a straight line this way. Take it all the way up, because once you take it all the way up like this, then you're going to then blend it in to the crotch this way. So we've blended it this way, and at this point now, I'm going to still continue this line in a straight manner, just like this. Or if you're making it in a jumpsuit, you can blend it into the knee, or you can blend it like at the knee. Like if you're making it a long version, if you don't want the leg to be too big, you can blend it into your waist to your knee length, where your knee length is in the front. Let's say my waist to my knee length on the front is somewhere here. I'll just blend it diagonal like this into this line, just like that. If you don't want it too wide, because if you imagine, if you're more on the bigger side now, the opening of your pants might be way too open for you. So just blend it in so that the front and the back opening will be the same. Just blend it into the line of the front anyway. So now that I've done that, the next thing I have to do is just to increase the back crotch, right? Just do the same 2 inches. This is where the line of this one stops, right? So you do another 2 inches at this top again, And now this other 2 inches, I'm going to blend it into this line, because the edge of this pant needs to be the same, because the two sides are going to meet each other. So I'm going to blend it into this line again. Guys, this is basically done. Oh, there's nothing else we have to do here. Blending the side, you're cutting the side exactly how it is. Everything else is the same. So all we did for the back is just to extend it 2 inches different, 2 inches in crotch or 2.5 at the crotch, and then extended the tip of the center back by 2 inches, blended it into the line, continued the straight side. Guys, the back is not going to have any dart. You understand? It's just elastic that is going to pull it together. The dart in front is just to keep it straight and make it look very straight and nice. You see how it's looking on that picture? But the back is going to need that together so that it pulls everything together and it looks nice. So now I'm going to start from here now and cut this out all the way to this point.